The ruling party has already abandoned power.
Order, Madam Speaker. Order, please. Order, Madam Speaker. Order, please.
Bengicela sithathe umzuzwana sikhuleke buthule. Amen. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, honorable members. Those with time to measure a millisecond, I love you. I will now go to item number 2, which is obituaries. Honorable members, since our last sitting, the Office of the Speaker has learned of the passing on of some of our brothers, sisters, and significant others. While no words can ever erase the pain family members feel during their time of grief and sorrow, it is our hope that the passage of time may make the sad loss that they have suffered more bearable. We want to mention the following persons in particular: Mr. Lunga Sanele Twala, the son of Ms. Sizakele Mjali, a staff member in the finance section of the Legislature; Mr. Spiwe Mkonza, former Kaizer Chiefs and Bloemfontein Celtic defender and a TV analyst for football. Mr. Mkonza began his career at the now defunct Bloemfontein Celtic Football Club and turned out for Ria Stars and Lamontville Golden Arrows before joining Kaizer Chiefs in 2004. After leaving the mighty Amakosi in 2007, Mkonza played for SuperSport United, Maritzburg United, AmaZulu, and Black Leopards. On the time of his passing, he was an analyst on SABC and has been for a number of years. Following his retirement from the active football playing career. All victims of gender-based violence, femicide, and hate crimes, public servants and traditional leaders from this province and the whole country, the victims of road fatalities in our province that may have passed on, and also at a national level since our last sitting. Honorable members, we also note all those that may not be mentioned here, and it is for that reason that we request you to now stand to observe a moment of silence to honor them. May their souls rest in peace. Honorable members, we now moving to item 3.1, which is apologies. The first apology is for the Honorable Mr. Artim Tembu, the Deputy Speaker, who's attending a pension fund board meeting in Cape Town representing the KwaZulu-Natal Legislature. The following members will not be attending due to party commitments: the Honorable P. Govender, Honorable N.N. Gubane, Honorable S.E. Manqele, and the Honorable C.M. Shinga. We have the Honorable M.E. Pakati, who is not well. So we request that we also remember him in our own prayers. Honorable members, I have the pleasure of introducing a new member who was sworn in this morning, Thursday, the 7th of March, 2024, at the Speaker's boardroom. The new honorable member who replaces the former member, Ms. S. Hussein, who resigned on the 19th of February, 2024, on Reverend Zondi's birthday. The new member is the Honorable Miss Riona Gaukau from the DA component. Stand up, Honorable Member, for members to see you. Welcome. Honorable members, we now move to birthdays. Today, the 7th of March, is the birthday of the Honorable Umntwana Uzbuyisile wa KwaZulu, who is the chairperson of the PPP Portfolios Committee. May we take this opportunity to wish you all the happiness this life can offer, Ndaba. Uhlala umude unjalo. I would also like to wish happy birthdays in advance to the following members. The Honorable Lucas Meyer, who is born on the 11th of March. The Honorable Dr. Imran Kika on the 12th of March, when we will be having a special sitting. The Honorable TV Kulu on the 29th of March. May you all have a wonderful year ahead of you. Another announcement goes to the members of the Portfolio Committee on Finance. You honorable members, you are kindly informed that there will be a finance budget briefing for all committees in the chamber today, immediately after members have had their lunch. All members will remain, but more specifically, if you are a member of the Finance Committee, utuhlale unganyakazi. Honorable members, as you know, South Africans celebrate March as Human Rights Month. It goes back to the 21st of March, 1960, a day on which many South Africans engaged in various defiance campaigns against the iniquitous past laws that used to be on the statute book of this country. During the month of March, we highlight and celebrate all the civil liberties we currently enjoy. For instance, the universal suffrage and various other human rights that are outlined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the United Nations Documentation on Civil Liberties and Human Rights. May we all enjoy our human rights in a non-discriminative, no hate, and ensuring that there's always justice for all. Honorable members, you are invited by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Nomsa Dube-Ncube, together with the members of her Executive Council, to attend the International Women's Day celebration to be held on Friday, the 8th of March, 2024, starting at 9 o'clock at the Dalsy September Conference Center at Jude Campus in eThekwini. Now we will move to item number 4, announcements or reports by the Premier, which is the time that we give to you, Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members, Leader of Government Business, Honorable Ntombeni, and all members of the Executive Council. Honorable Speaker, we wish to make the following announcements. Tomorrow we are going to celebrate the International Women's Day at the University of KwaZulu-Natal at the Edgewood campus, Pinetown, under the theme Inspire Inclusion. Celebrating International Women's Day provides an opportunity to recognize and honor the remarkable contributions of women in various fields, from politics and education, healthcare, business. Women in KwaZulu-Natal have played a pivotal role in shaping the province's progress. Since 1995, International Women's Day has been celebrated to acknowledge the critical role women play during and after colonial apartheid era. The day showcased women's courage, resilience, and commitment to continue to inspire generations. International Women's Day tomorrow will focus on empowering young women in women in leadership positions within the public and private sector, academic services. By fostering mentorship, skills development, and networking, it will pave the way for more women to take charge and influence policy decisions. The day's discussions will deliberate on equipping women with digital literacy, ensuring they can participate actively in evolving technological environment. Sadly, gender-based violence remains a pressing issue in South Africa, KZN, and in the globe. International Women's Day will serve as a platform to raise awareness about violence against women, advocate for prevention strategies, and empower women to address sexual harassment in the workplace. Celebrating International Women's Day in KwaZulu-Natal about acknowledging the past, empowering the present, and shaping a more equitable future for all. Honorable members, next week on the 12th of March, the whole of KwaZulu-Natal and the country of South Africa will commemorate the day that His Majesty the King Zwelithini Zulu ascended to the realm of ancestors. The day will mark 3 years since the kings joined the palace of his ancestors. As we remember our late King Zwelithini, we thank the Almighty and the Lord and long line of our royals for guiding our nation throughout the recent trials and tribulation. As we march towards the celebration of the 30 years of democracy, which will usher the national and provincial elections, we are going to remember Ubejane Phumesiqhiwini as a monarch who revered peace and prosperity. Our matric class of 2022-2023 posthumously paid a fitting tribute to the king who loved education and progress by attaining an 86% pass rate, which propelled the province to the second spot nationally ahead of Gauteng and Western Cape. The king never dies. Long live our king. Wena Wesilo. Honorable members, the 110th commemoration of King Dinizulu Kacetshwayo is a momentous occasion in KwaZulu-Natal. This revered Zulu monarch left an indelible mark in our history, and his legacy continues to inspire generations. On Tuesday, March 5, 2024, a wreath-laying ceremony took place at the old Pietermaritzburg prison, which has now been turned into a museum where King Dinizulu was once incarcerated. The premier was accompanied by the dignitaries Amabuto, MEC Dr. Mahlaba, paid tribute to the late king who gallantly fought against colonialism. Another wreath-laying ceremony will take place in Durban city center, where King Dinizulu's statues stand. King Dinizulu's 110th commemoration will take place on the 16th of March in KwaXeza Sports Field. This location holds a historical significance as it was where the King Dinizulu launched his final and decisive attack against colonialists. It was a battle fought near Nongoma, where he emerged victorious. The KwaZulu-Natal government acknowledges the royal family's guidance during this significant event. Let us honor King Dinizulu's courage, his vision, unwavering commitment to the people of this land. The last one, honorable members, is that in KwaZulu-Natal, the MEC for Health has further issued information about the pink eye that has become a serious cause for concern in 2024. Pink eye is a highly contagious disease. According to the Department of Health, the number of pink eye cases has increased from 161 to 1,044 between February 29 to March the 3rd. Most of these cases, more than 700, have been reported in eThekwini district. Good personal hygiene is crucial in preventing the spread of pink eye. Recommendation includes regular hand washing. Thank you to the legislature for providing us with the sanitizers. Regular hand washing, avoiding the sharing of face cloth, eye cosmetics, and pillows. It is important to seek medical help immediately when experiencing pink eye symbols. Health education and awareness. We applaud the Department of Health under the leadership of Honorable Nomagugu Smelane for actively educating us and the public about the pink eye. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, we will now move to item 5, which is tabling of reports or papers. We have not recorded any tablings today, and therefore we will not have tablings. And we will then move to item number 6, which is formal motions or notices by the Chief Whip. We therefore give this opportunity to the Honorable Chief Whip.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier and honorable members. I must say that there are no formal motions and notices from the Office of the Chief Whip. Thank you.
Thank you, Mkhatshwa. Honorable members, as we announced, the main order of today is the budget speech that will be tabled by the Honorable MEC for Finance in KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Neliswa Peggy Nkonyeni. I therefore give you this opportunity, Madam MEC, to take the podium.
All right. Honorable Speaker, Ms. Nontembeko Boys, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Mr. Themba Mthembu, Honorable Premier of the Province of KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Nomusa Dube, the Leader of Government Business, Honorable Duma, ANC Provincial Secretary, Mr. Bheki Mtolo, and all the Provincial Executive Committee members, the members of the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Council, honorable members of the Provincial Legislature, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chairperson of the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial House of Traditional Leaders and KZN leaders in Kosushinga, all traditional leaders, Director General Dr. Nonhlanhla Mkhize, our Head of Department, Ms. Carol Kutie, all heads of departments and senior managers, CEOs of public entities, the people of KwaZulu-Natal, members of the media, business leaders, and distinguished guests. 30 years ago, the first democratic president of the Republic of South Africa and the African National Congress, His Excellency Dr. Nelson Mandela, took to the podium on his inauguration and committed the country to work together in fighting crime, injustices of the past, and to generally improve the lives of all South Africans. He further committed the government to also fight the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. He therefore uttered the following words of wisdom, quote unquote, never never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the skunk of the world. Again today, we are firmly standing here as part of honoring the pledge we took decades ago and to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to making this country a better place than before. Since this government, which is led by the African National Congress, was voted into power, significant achievements have been reported. However, we are aware that a lot still needs to be done as the needs of our people continue to grow. In this year's State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted notable achievements by this government in the past 30 years. But most importantly, he gave a clear direction that this government should accelerate the continued efforts to improve the lives of the people. We therefore continue to strive to end poverty, reduce unemployment rate, and fight inequality. Madam Speaker and honorable members, allow me to draw your attention to the key focus areas as outlined by President Ramaphosa, such as to end the persistent energy crisis, restore our economy, fight against crime, improve service delivery, and to build and strengthen our public institutions. This resonates well with the KwaZulu-Natal Premier, Honorable Nomsa Dube-Ncubes's announcements in her State of the Province address last week, particularly on the operationalization of the Provincial Growth and Development Plan and the Provincial Economic Recovery Plan, which both prioritizes the fight against any form of crime in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The 10 million rand set aside by the provincial departments is one of our direct funding efforts to fight the scourge of crime. The rolling out of infrastructure development programs is the key driver to deepen efforts and to reduce unemployment and poverty and fight inequality. Honorable Speaker, the province of KwaZulu-Natal continues to work hard in revitalizing the economy after the crisis created by the global pandemic, which was COVID-19, the 2021 July unrest, and the tragic, devastating floods in the year 2022, which are exacerbated by the impact of the persistent climate change challenges. The recent floods in Ladysmith are an example of these persisting challenges, which continue to exert significant pressure on our provincial fiscus and budget prioritization. We celebrate the declared expansion of KwaZulu-Natal ports, that is the Durban port and also the Richards Bay port, as a direct response to stimulate our provincial economy, given the significant trade through our ports, thus creating massive job opportunities. However, we will also continue working hard to position our province in order for the people of KwaZulu-Natal to benefit from both the marine and maritime industries. Somlomo ohloniphekile, ukulungiselela ukwethula kwesabelo mali sesifundazwe njengomnyango kaMgcini Mafa siqale sahambela izifunda sinxenxa imibono yabantu ngezidingo zabo nalokho abafisa ukuthi kuqukathwe kulesi sabelo zimali. This helps government to develop a budget that is people-centered, hence addressing people's needs, and to also streamline programs in such a way that they directly respond to their challenges. In the main, various issues that cut across almost all departments are raised with the view to allow the budget process to resolve them, including issues relating to road infrastructure, health-related issues, psychosocial issues, economic recalibration, crime alleviation, education-related issues, housing issues, water and electricity issues. Ubaba uMadoda Gamede ohlala ku Ward 16 eMandeni ngaphansi kwesifunda iLembe ukhale ngamahhovisi akwa South African Social Security Agency akhiwe ngendlela eyenza ukuthi kube nzima kakhulukazi ukusetshenziswa abantu abakhubazekile. Njengoba sethula lesabelo zimali sinxenxa iminyango yonke ukuthi ithathele phezulu imbono yabantu ukuze izimpilo zabo zibe ngcono. Somlomo ohloniphekile njengoba besike sasho ukuthi izinkinga ezibhekene nabantu bakithi zicishe zifane. Siphinde sahambela kumasipala waseMzumbe ngaphansi kwesifunda sasoGwini nalapho iningi labantu likhale kakhulu ngokwentuleka kwamanzi kanye nemigwaqo engekho esimeni esihle. uThemba Mzobe ohlala kuWard 11 uthe bacela ukulungiselelwa umgwaqo uD2105 owubhuqu osuka kwaGumbi uye eBangibizo. Yileso sizathu esenza sithi kufanele sibeke eqhulwini izimfuno zabantu kulesabelo imali. Sizokhuluma nomnyango wokuthutha ukuthi ulekelele umphakathi ngalesi sicelo. As part of the global community, our country and our province's economic outlook is shaped by many factors such as the geopolitics, global economic patterns, and climate change. However, we are still resolute in our commitments of stabilizing the economy and also to create job opportunities. United in our diversity, we have worked together to circumvent the storm that was caused by the global pandemic. As we continue to join our hands, surely together we can do more. Lenkulumo yesabelo zimali yenzeka enyangeni emqoka kakhulu emlandweni wezwe lakithi njengoba kuyinyanga yokugubha amalungelo abantu. Lokho ukusho ukuthi kufanele siqhubeke nokulwisana nesihlava sobugebengu nokuhlukunyezwa kwabantu besifazane, abantwana, abahlali nabasebenzi basemaplazini kanye noza wethu abakwi-LGBTQIA+ sector. Yingakho sithi bonke abantu besifundazwe saKwaZulu-Natal fanele babe nokuziqhenya nokuzigqaja ngokuba ngabaseNingizimu Afrika. Konke lokhu kusemqoka futhi kuzokwenzeka ngokuvikela amalungelo abo. Madam Speaker, in commemoration the International Women's Day in March 1987, Thomas Sankara, the former president of Burkina Faso, profoundly said, I quote unquote, "Inequality can be done away with only by establishing a new society where men and women will enjoy equal rights. Thus, the status of women will improve only with the elimination of the system that exploits them." Tomorrow, the world will be celebrating the International Women's Day as our Honorable Premier has expressed her wish of celebrating that very important day with all of us in this house. The day designated to the recognition of women for their stature in society. In celebrating women, we are reminded of the struggle that was and continues to be waged by women across the world for a just society. Honorable Speaker, we are proud to remind the people of KwaZulu-Natal that the budget we tabled last year during the 2023-2024 MTF period focused on prioritized budgeting for women as well. In commemoration of the International Women's Day, we recommit ourselves in budgeting in a manner that continues to prioritize women. In other words, this budget will be looked through a gender lens. We therefore encourage all departments and entities to heed this call in order to quantify the impact we have on the vulnerable sectors. Since the dawn of the democracy, our story could best be told through the successes of our own Dintswalos or Enzos that we have produced through various government-funded educational programs such as Trainee Accountant Program, spearheaded by the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Treasury. The program has to date benefited 24 trainees, of which 15 of them have now qualified as Chartered Accountants of South Africa. This is indeed a good story to tell, as enhanced financial competencies in the public sector are critical for prudent fiscal management. Madam Speaker, please allow me to introduce to this august house our latest graduates of this program as they rise. I'll start by introducing Halali Silendebele. from Hammersdale. Bongumusa Ngobo from Newcastle. And Lindoguhle Kambula from Tubatuba. Well done, young people. We are very proud of you. This program continues to meaningfully contribute towards helping the province to build a more ethical and capable state, whilst also empowering the previously disadvantaged groups. Beneficiaries of the program are young and mostly women. It has further equipped us to continue providing continuous support and oversight to provincial departments, municipalities, and public entities. Madam Speaker, as part of safeguarding our internal systems, we are continuously investing on information, communication, and technology. Partnering with strategic private partners, KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Treasury and other relevant agencies have endeavored to do a sweep of our financial statements and look into our ICT investments in order to identify and remove expenditure that does not actually provide added value, while also optimizing processes to improve efficiency. The main objective is to unlock issues such as elimination of redundancy, streamlining workflows, communication, improvement, and forecasting of changes. The outcome of this exercise is to present a clear view of our ICT's return on investment and benchmark value for money. Stopgap measures will be adopted where findings indicate revenue loss impacting on the fiscus. Honorable Speaker, allow me to table the following documents. The appropriation bill, Honorable Speaker, is tabled formally. The provincial budget speech, Honorable Speaker, is also tabled formally in this House. The estimates of provincial revenue and expenditure, the Green Book, Honorable Speaker, we are tabling the Green Book in this House, and also the estimates of capital expenditure, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, when appropriated, this bill will give the legal basis for departments and public entities to spend their 2024-2025 budgets. With regards to the global and domestic economic outlook, Madam Speaker, as I table the provincial budget today, the global economic landscape remains a challenge as the growth rate decelerated further to 3.1% last year from 3.5% in 2022. The subdued global economic growth reflects the impact of prolonged supply chain disruptions and tighter monetary policy implemented to contain inflation. While the period of interest rate increases is expected to end this year amid a decreasing inflation rate, global growth remains susceptible to significant downside risks. The risks to the global economic outlook emanate from low global trade growth, weaker than expected growth in China, as well as the possibility of commodity market disruptions should the recent geopolitical conflicts in the Middle East escalate to other regions. Global growth is expected to remain steady at 3.1% this year, before increasing slightly to 3.2% in 2025. Somlomo ohloniphekile, amazwe asafufusa njengeNingizimu Afrika asabhekene nezinkinga zomnotho ezihlasele umhlaba wonke. Muva nje amanani enzuzo yemali mboleko anyuke kakhulu kulesi sikhathi uma kuqhathaniswa nesikhathi seminyaka eyishumi edlule. Kuyasijabulisa ukuthi ibhange ngodla lisebenza kanzima ukuzama ukulungisa isimo. The unfavorable global conditions have been compounded by domestic structural challenges that continue to severely limit the country's growth potential. In 2023, the national economy expanded slightly by 0.6% due to persistent power outages alongside ports and rail infrastructure constraints. On a positive note, South Africa's growth is projected to increase marginally to 1.3% this year and 1.6% in 2025, as the energy supply is expected to improve, and with lower inflation encouraging household consumption. The expected easing of load shedding should have a positive impact on corporate turnover, which is therefore expected to have a positive impact on corporate income taxes, thus providing better revenue streams for the fiscus. Improvements in tax revenues over time will allow the country to repay its high debt levels, build better buffers, and thus free up resources to expand critical government programs. Madam Speaker, a significant amount of effort is being put in order to ensure that we improve on our own economic growth and a sustainable fiscal outlook. As outlined by His Excellency, the State President of the Republic of South Africa, through the State of the Nation address, the government is on track to resolving the underpinning constraints on economic growth by stabilizing the energy supply and fixing the logistics system to unleash economic potential. In this regard, the presidency has set out a plan to end load shedding, which has been implemented through the National Energy Crisis Committee. Madam Speaker, equally, this budget announcement is demonstrating the alignment to the presidential 6 priorities through our program of economic reconstruction and building a safe and prosperous province of KwaZulu-Natal, namely putting South Africa to work, building our industries for an inclusive economy, tackling the high cost of living, investing in our people, defending democracy and advancing freedom, and building a better Africa in the world. Similarly, as indicated in Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's speech last month, the country has embarked on a broad structural reform agenda that aims to address the challenges that impede our economic growth. The main focus is to continue with our efforts to stabilize our power supply and improve our logistics capabilities. Minister Godongwana also provided feedback on progress made with regards to the public procurement bill. We expect this bill, once enacted, to contribute to our transformation agenda for the advancement of previously disadvantaged persons. The focus is on small enterprises owned by Black people, with emphasis placed on Black women, Black youth, and Black people with disabilities. The bill also provides for local industrialization and set-asides, which should make a palpable difference in the economic empowerment of the communities. As a result of all these factors, as well as a sharp reduction in tax revenue because of lower economic growth, mainly due to a decline in corporate taxes and from taxes on mining corporates in the main, National Treasury advised provinces during this budget process that the fiscal consolidation stance will remain in place. This is done mainly to ensure fiscal sustainability and a reduction in our debt burden. Fiscal space is provided through for the protection of our core social services. It is imperative for government now more than ever to ensure that every rand goes an extra mile. Honorable members, similar to other provinces across the country, KwaZulu-Natal is not immune from the setbacks affecting the country, as evidenced by slowing provincial growth. The economic challenges in KwaZulu-Natal are further exacerbated by climate change, which has caused frequent disastrous floods that continue to cause damage to economic infrastructure, as well as leading to a loss of lives. To this end, our provincial economic outlook shows that economic growth increased marginally by 0.7% last year. We, however, expect a moderate expansion of 1.1% this year and 2.3% in 2025, supported largely by the anticipated energy availability. While the projected growth is still below the potential growth of our provincial economy, we remain positive about our steadfast implementation of economic reforms and job creation through focused and interlinked programs such as industrialization, localization, export and investment promotions, amongst others. We also continue to invest in economic infrastructure as part of our unwavering efforts to reconstruct and rehabilitate the provincial economy. Through our massive industrial infrastructure development at the Dubai Trade Port and Richards Bay Special Economic Zones, we have created more employment opportunities for our people. Honorable members, the construction activities taking place on the N2 and N3 have also contributed to numerous job opportunities in the province. It is partly through these and other government initiatives that KZN has reported a continuous increase in employment over 8 consecutive quarters since the beginning of 2022 into the final quarter of December 2023, adding a cumulative number of some 375,000 persons employed. Madam Speaker, as alluded earlier, the Port of Durban is a strategic asset of our country and KwaZulu-Natal in particular. We are delighted by the pronouncement made by the President in the SONA about the plans to expand and improve the largest terminal in the country. The improved efficiency in the operation of this port will contribute to the exportation of goods and services. Let me now focus on the provincial budget for the 2024-2025 MTF period. The provincial fiscal framework for 2024-25 is as follows. I think you can read for yourselves what is reflected on table 1. The provincial fiscal framework shows the provincial equitable share and conditional grants receiving from National Treasury in aggregate, as well as the amount we anticipate to collect from our provincial own revenue sources and funds allocated in this budget from our own provincial cash resources, which emanate from funds held in our provincial revenue fund for a specific purpose, or where funds were paid into provincial own revenue in the prior year and are being allocated for spending in the budget. Therefore, Table 1 reflects on the revised allocation of 150,724,520,000 rands. Regarding the transfers, the transfer receipts from National Treasury, we are reflecting on an amount of 146,541,000,000 rands. Our provincial equitable share is 121,145,053,000 rands. Then conditional grants 25,395,947,000 rands. Regarding our own provincial own revenue, the amount reflected is 4.1 billion rands, and provincial cash resources 6,660,000. With regards, which then amounts at a total of 150,488,101,000 rands for this current financial year, which is 2024-2025. And with regards to the next financial year, 2025-2026, we are declaring an amount of 155,545,832,000,000 rands. And for the outer year of 2026-2027, we are making a declaration of 161,739,387,000,000 rands. Regarding our contingency reserves, honorable members, we are declaring an amount of 236,419,000 rands for this current financial year, 227,115,000 for the next financial year, and 225,486 for this current financial year. In 2024-2025, the provincial equitable share amounts to 121.1 billion rands, with the amounts allocated over the MTF period as shown above. And then the conditional grant allocation amounts to 25.4 billion, as we have also reflected on that. And then the total amount we receive from National Treasury is thus 146.5 billion rands. And when adding the provincial own revenue and provincial cash resources to this amount, the total revenue that the province has to finance the budget is 150.7 billion rands, as shown in line 1 of the table. Line 2 shows the provincial departments planning to spend 150.5 billion rands in the year 2024-2025. And the final line in the table shows that our contingency reserve is set at that amount, as I have already alluded to that. The bulk of our funding is received from National Treasury in the form of the provincial equitable share, which amounts to 80.4%, and the conditional grant allocation, which amounts to 16.8%, with the balance made up by our provincial owned revenue and also provincial cash resources at 2.8% of the total envelope. With regards to the amendments to the provincial equitable share by National Treasury, as indicated, the largest share of our funding is received in the form of the provincial equitable share, and National Treasury advised provinces to various amendments being made to the provincial equitable share in this budget, and these are incorporated in the fiscal framework. We are very grateful for significant additions being made to the province towards the carried through costs of the 2023 wage agreement. These additions fully cover the costs of the 2023 wage agreement for the social sector departments, namely for the Department of Education and for the Department of Health, and also the Department of Social Development is also covered. The amounts received in this regard are 6.6 billion rands, 6.8 billion and 7 billion rands over the MTF period. We are very grateful for these additions, as the 2023 wage bill exerted considerable pressure on these labor-intensive departments, and we raised this matter at a number of national forums. We are very pleased that our concerns were listened to and that these critical funds were provided to the province. The other departments have had to absorb this cost from within their existing baselines over the MTEF. On the other hand, as indicated by Honorable Minister Kodongwana in his budget speech last month, we are not out of the woods yet, and thus the fiscal consolidation stance that started a few years ago is set to continue in this budget. As a result, there are budget cuts, honorable members, made against our equitable share budget over the MTF period. The annual data updates of the provincial equitable share formula have not worked in favor, and as a result, our allocation has been reduced proportionately. With regards to the fiscal consolidation budget cuts implemented by National Treasury, the province loses 4 billion rands, 4.2 billion and 4.3 billion rands over the MTF period. We also lose 334.5 million, 109.2 million rands and 189.5 million rands over the MTF period as a result of the data updates of the provincial equitable share formula. In aggregate, though, there is a net increase in the funds allocated to KwaZulu-Natal's provincial equitable share of 2.3 billion rands. to 2.5 billion rands per annum, taking into account the additional funding received for the cost of the 2023 wage agreement in the social sector. The province has taken a decision to effect reductions across the board in order to increase our contingency reserve to around an amount of 225 million to 236 million per annum, mark over the MTF period. The contingency reserve allows us to respond in year when unforeseen circumstances arise. In this regard, we have cut back spending by 132.5 million rands, 103.5 million rands, and 105.4 million rands over the MTF period in order to fund the increase in the contingency reserve. This means that the provincial budget reduces by between 4.4 billion and 4.7 billion in aggregate over the 2024-2025 MTF period. But this cut then is offset by the additions referred to earlier. With respect to the additions made to our provincial equitable share to the carry-through cost of the 2023 wage agreement, the funds were allocated to the social sector proportionately as follows. Education, Department of Education receives an amount of 4.1 billion and of between 4.1 billion and 4.4 billion per annum over the MTF period. Department of Health receives between 2.6 billion and 2.8 billion rands per annum over the MTF period. And Department of Social Development receives between 134 million and 144 million rands per annum over the MTF period. Uma sibuka ukuthi kufanele kwenziwe kanjani ukunciphisa isabelo mali kulonyaka bekufanele sijule ngoba sesibe neminyaka eminingi yokunciphisa wesabelo zimali ngakho ke akukho lula ukukwenza kulonyaka wezimali ka2024-2025 ikakhulukazi ngoba isabelo mali sesifundazwe asikho esimene sihle kodwa ke bengekho singakwenza ingakho kumele sikwenze kuze kube isimo somnotho siyashintsha. With regards to the provincial equitable share budget cuts, it was decided to effect these budget cuts proportionately against all votes, with the exception of vote 2. Vote 2 is the provincial legislature, who were exempted from the budget cuts. In determining the proportionate cut, we excluded certain cost items from the proportionate calculation. In this regard, given the underfunded property rates and the significant impact as a result thereof on service delivery and municipalities, this line item was excluded when calculating the proportionate budget cuts for the Department of Public Works. The budget cuts are significant, and departments were required to review the targets that they have set for themselves in the 2024-2025 annual performance plans to fall in line with their amended budget. All departments had to revisit their budgets and prioritize the programs and projects they will be rolling out over the MTF period, taking into account their reduced budgets. For some, it has meant that various posts will not be filled. Additional cost-cutting measures must be implemented, and programs to address operational inefficiencies must be concluded, while others have noted that some projects will have to be rolled out over a longer period of time. Departments will also, as far as possible, hold meetings virtually so as to reduce the cost of traveling, while others indicated that they will place greater emphasis on efficiency savings or will reduce internal training programs. Departments will place more emphasis on implementing efficient business processes to ensure that quality services continue to be rendered to our communities. A finance lekgotla was held in early February to look at the impact of these budget amendments and to deliberate on a number of strategies to be implemented to render quality services within the fiscal resources we have. These strategies will be elaborated on when the MECs table their votes budget speeches. Regarding the amendments to the conditional grant allocation by National Treasury, the second highest portion of our funding is allocated by the National Treasury in the form of conditional grants. These funds are allocated to us to fund specific government programs, and the allocations are made in line with the Division of Revenue Act. National Treasury advised that fiscal consolidation budget cuts are also being made against the conditional grant allocation, mainly towards addressing the country's debt burden and towards ensuring fiscal sustainability. National Treasury also revised some of the conditional grant allocations downwards to free up funding in order to be able to fund the carry-through costs of the 2023 wage agreement allocated to the social sector as explained. Some reductions are also made against the conditional grant allocation to support a national decision to continue with the presidential employment stimulus package. KwaZulu-Natal's conditional grant allocation increases by 501.3 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year, and then it's going to be reduced by 989.3 million in 2025-2026, and by 593.5 million rands in 2026-2027 financial year. Quite a number of conditional grants show marginal adjustments to their budgets, with only the more pertinent amendments discussed here. The Ilima Projects grant under the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development is cut by 24.7 million rands in the year 2024-2025 due to National Treasury reprioritizing these funds towards the presidential employment stimulus package. The grant amounts to 55.4 million rands after taking this amendment into account. In aggregate, the province receives 141.4 million rands through the EPWP conditional grants aimed at increasing job creation in the province. The EPWP integrated grant for provinces and the social sector EPWP incentive grant for provinces are reduced in 2024-2025 due to National Treasury reprioritizing these funds towards the presidential employment stimulus, and these grants were cut by 42 million rands and 29 million rands respectively against various votes. The education infrastructure grant increases by 58.1 million rands in 2024-2025. And this grant is incentive-based, and the increase is partly due to the incentive allocation, where the department scored really well, achieving 98% in terms of submitting planning documentation and showing capacity to spend, and thus received an incentive allocation of 89 million rands. This was offset by consolidation budget cuts. The budget for this grant is 2.4 billion rands after these amendments. And then the National School Nutrition Program grant receives an increase of 19 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year to continue with the provision of nutritious meals. The budget for 2024-2025 financial year after the increase is therefore amounting to 2.2 billion rands. The health facility revitalization grant is increased by 31.1 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year. The addition is because the grant is incentive-based again, and because the department scored really well at 99%. Yeah, it deserves acclamation. And in terms of submission, planning documentations, and showing capacity to spend, and was allocated 72.9 million rands. This is offset by fiscal consolidation, and the budget for this grant is 105 billion rands in 2024-2025 financial year. Well done, colleagues. We are very proud of both of you, Department of Education and Department of Health. Then the Provincial Roads Management Grant sees a significant increase of 691.8 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year, and is used for the maintenance and rehabilitation of provincial road network, as well as repairs to infrastructure damaged by floods. The budget for this grant is 3.2 billion rands after this increase, and shows our commitment to improving the provincial road network. The Human Settlements Development Grant decreases significantly by 268.7 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year. As indicated, National Treasury reduced the budget against this grant in order to be able to provide funds to the social sector for the 2023 wage bill carried through costs. This budget cut is carried through over the MTF period. The budget for this grant is in 2024-2025 is 2.5 billion rands after the budget cut. Similarly, the Informal Settlements Upgrading Partnership Grant also had a large budget cut of 228.6 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year, in line with National Treasury's decision to source funds through reprioritization to provide funds to the social sector for the 2023 wage agreement carried through costs. The budget cut is carried through over the MTF period, and the budget for 2024-2025 financial year after the budget cut is 597.1 million rands. Therefore, funding from provincial cash resources and suspension of funds, colleagues, we are indicating here that a few allocations are also made in this budget from our own provincial cash resources, as well as through the movement of funds between votes. These are as follows. Vote 6, Provincial Treasury, will receive 7.7 million rands over the MTF period, 2.6 million per annum, towards the cost of upgrading the biometric access control system to strengthen its security and ransomware features. This control system is used by all departments when accessing bars, and the improvement will lower the risk of unauthorized access to the system. KwaZulu-Natal is the only province who has this additional layer of control and has therefore obliterated the opportunity for unauthorized access to our system. Vote 10, Sport, Arts and Culture, receives an amount of 4.1 million rands in 2024-2025 financial year for the construction of a monument in honor of the 1860 arrival of the Indian indentured laborers. These funds were recalled into the Provincial Revenue Fund a number of years ago when this project was showing little progress. The department reports that they anticipate that this project will be completed in 2024-2025 financial year after gaining significant momentum in 2023-2024 financial year. The department has indicated that the monument is in the process of being erected alongside the Ushaka Marine Promenade in Durban. The project commenced in 2023-2024 and is anticipated to take 7 to 8 months to complete. Vote 12, Transport. Transport requested that 3 million rands be suspended from their vote in 2024-2025 for allocation to vote for economic development, tourism, and environmental affairs with respect to sourcing an airport emergency fire and rescue vehicle for the Margate Airport. This relates to the ongoing collaboration between these two departments to ensure the successful operation of the provincial regional airports. Honorable members, let us now unpack the provincial budget. The provincial budget is allocated to 14 votes for spending as shown in Table 2, and the votes use these funds in rolling out various national and provincial priorities. This table shows the amounts allocated to each vote for spending in the year 2024-2025 and each vote's share of the total provincial budget. Vote 1, Office of the Premier, an allocated amount of 784,153,000 rands will have to be implemented through various programs that will be elaborated on by the Honorable Premier when she presents his own budget speech. And that totals to 0.5% of our budget. Provincial Legislature, an amount of 782,115 rands is allocated. For agriculture and rural development, 2,608,385,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, 3,459,828,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Education, vote 5, 62,988,588,000 rands is allocated. For Provincial Treasury, 680,901,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Health, 53,796,892,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Human Settlements, 3,529,676,000 rands is allocated. For community safety and liaison, 243,343,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, 1,537,422,000 rands is allocated. For vote 11, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, an amount of 1,850,066,000 rands is allocated. For the Department of Transport, 13,023,631,000 is allocated. For Social Development Department, 3,411,555,000 rands is allocated. And for the Department of Public Works, 1,791,546,000 rands is allocated. So the total amount for the budget that we are presenting today is 150 billion rands, 488 million rands, and 101,000 rands. The priorities set out in the MTF period adopted by the 6th administration have been our guiding light over the past 5 years. These, together with the provincial priorities that were developed and are in synergy with the national priorities, have determined our service delivery imperatives. The main aim of these continue to be the reduction in poverty and inequality through creating jobs, providing a meaningful and adequate social service with the main aim of providing a better life for all. Yonke iminyango kahulumeni lapha esifundazweni sakithi saKwaZulu-Natal iyacelwa ukuthi ekulungiseleleni isabelo zimali sakulonyaka kufanele iveze kuseqhulwini lwezinto abazozenza ukuhambisana nokuseqhulwini kuhulumeni wesifundazwe. Okuseqhulwini KwaZulu-Natal ilokho okulandelayo: building a capable, ethical and developmental state, economic transformation and job creation, education, skills and health, consolidating the social wage through reliable and quality basic services, spatial integration, human settlements and local government, social cohesion and safe communities, and a better Africa and the world. I will not go through all what is reflected there because MECs will have to elaborate when they present their own budget speeches. Analysis of the budget by sector, we are reflecting on the fact that through that figure 1, we show that the bulk of provincial budget is allocated to the social sector departments, namely Department of Education and the Department of Health. KwaZulu-Natal's infrastructure budget, the total infrastructure budget over the MTF period is 17.1 billion rands, 17.3 billion rands and 17.4 billion rands, showing our ongoing commitment to prioritizing infrastructure development. A detailed list of infrastructure projects that will be implemented is contained in the estimates of capital expenditure document that I have already tabled in this House. Honorable Speaker, the Department of regarding the Department of Transport, the types of infrastructure projects rolled out by these departments include maintenance and upgrade of roads. I won't elaborate on that. Kuningi kakhulu esingakubala kule minyaka engamashumi amathathu enkululeko. Kodwa ongqongqoshe bazochaza kabanzi uma sebethula izabelo zimali zeminyango yabo abaphathiswa. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, may I indicate that the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, once said, and I quote, "We want to renew our vows with our people. We want to reconnect with our people. We want to get our people excited again." I close quotes. As we present this provincial budget, we wish to state that the work of managing the provincial fiscus has been undertaken with extreme dexterity since 2009, when the province was in overdrive. To date, sterling work has been done to ensure that KwaZulu-Natal is an embodiment of resplendent financial governance and that it stays cash positive. We are committed to the renewal of our vows to grow KwaZulu-Natal together and to reconnect with the people of this province. Furthermore, in his State of the Nation address on the 8th of February 2024, President Ramaphosa highlighted various areas that we are proud of, including the significant progress on measures taken to grow the economy, to create jobs and to reduce poverty, to continue to position our economy to grow and to compete in a fast-changing world, to support small businesses and to give young people economic opportunities. The President did indicate that the government will continue to work in order to improve the country's fiscal position and hold a firm and sound macroeconomic trajectory. This is evident in the budget we are tabling today. In her State of the Province address, our Honorable Premier, Ms. Dube indicated the importance of ensuring that our provincial government is ethical, sound, financial discipline, and prudent in efficient governance processes. Honorable Speaker, more focus will be directed towards agriculture and tourism as they have constantly proven to be the key economic drivers of our province, with a significant job multiplier for every rand invested. Mining industry in our province should also be supported in order to explore more opportunities within the industry. Kubalulekile ukuthi nathi njengesifundazwe sibambe iqhaza ukukhulisa umkhakha wezimayini. Sinezimbiwa phansi eziningi esifundazweni sakithi ezifana ne-coal, titanium, lithium, gold, lime, and manganese, and many, many more. In our continued drive to grow our economy and to create job opportunities, the cannabis and hemp sector remains key and holds a significant potential to secure investment in order to support the sustainable rural livelihoods. This is now even more important after the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill has gone through the process of both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. It is just waiting for the President's signature in order for it to be enacted into law. Honorable members, we remain focused on the priorities we have set for ourselves in terms of the MTF and in the provincial priorities that are aligned to this framework. We will continue to work tirelessly for the people of KwaZulu-Natal through economic opportunities, job creation, and poverty alleviation. Honorable Speaker, let me express my greatest appreciation for the support that I have enjoyed from the leadership and membership of our movement, the African National Congress. Please also allow me to express my gratitude to the members of the provincial legislature, in particular, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance, Mr. Xulu, and Honorable Xulu, and members of the Finance Portfolio Committee, as well as the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Oversight, Honorable Madlala, and members of STARCOV. Most importantly, I wish to express my humble gratitude to our Honorable Premier, Nomusa Dube Ncube, our leader in the Provincial Executive Council, the leader of government business, Honorable Duma, my colleagues and comrades in the Executive Council. Thank you so much for your unwavering support. I really thank you, all of you, honorable members of this august house. And let me also thank all the heads of departments and chief financial officers for the work they have done in preparing this budget. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Minister of Finance, Honorable Godongwana, and National Treasury officials for the guidance and technical support during our preparation for tabling the budget. My gratitude also goes to the Ministers' Committee on Budget for the sounding advice during our preparation. I would also like to thank my Treasury team, led by HOD Carol Kutsi, for putting together the budget documentation I'm tabling today. I'm very proud of this team and their tireless dedication to the job at hand. Lastly, Madam Speaker, allow me to express my sincerest gratitude to my family, Umama Umajili, Mlambo, my children, Nonzwakazi, who is seated up there, Steve, Gonyeni, and Stabile, many children from my family. Some are children from my Mlambo side, others from Gonyeni side. I thank all of you for your unwavering support during my term. Let me also mention my grandchildren. I remember I was seated there when Dondo was born as the speaker of the provincial legislature. You know, it was very difficult for me even to complete that session because I had to rush to hospital. Today, Dondo is 11 years old. That's why I am a proud gogo, grandparent. Yes. The other one is Noto and Kosnami. Lastly, Madam Speaker, allow me to express my sincerest gratitude to everyone, the people of the province of KwaZulu-Natal who have been supporting me and supporting all of us in this legislature. Thank you very much. Siyabonga kakhulu bantabami. Thank you.
Order. Order. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable Numalo, Honorable Kaluza, Honorable Numalo, Honorable Kaluza, Honorable Kaluza, Honorable Numalo, your members. Thank you, honorable members. I am sure I allowed the MEC more time, probably because of what I heard about vote 2. Thank you, honorable MEC Mabedla Sisomdala. We have come to the end of the main order of the day. And when we started, we requested that members go to lunch and come back. Now, the Honorable Chairperson of Finance has brought it to my attention that we have finished with more than an hour earlier. And so that we do not arrest members unnecessarily, that we immediately, cognizant that even your lunch has to be prepared on the side in terms of time, we immediately request the members to go, when we adjourn, straight to the briefing. So that when you finish the briefing, more probably you'll use that hour and then you go to the lunch that you should be going on. Thank you so much, honorable members, for your patience and decorum. During the budget, we couldn't have afforded not to hear ukuthi ordinary bashona kanjani. But to the members of the public and the guests of the honorable MEC and the guests of the legislature at the top there, I am saying this, I have counted, it's been very few times that I have to say this. Thank you for how you have ensured that you also do not contribute to any disturbances in the sittings. You have been marvelous guests. Thank you so much. And we also want to thank the members of the fourth estate up there. I have seen you doing your work nicely and quietly without any interference with our proceedings. Thank you so much for what you have done. Otherwise, the House is adjourned.
Order, Madam Speaker.
Finance Committee members, please, can we start?
It's a briefing for all of committees.
For all? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Hello. Honorable members, all members of committees, I'm told you can remain. It's a briefing for everyone then. Order, please. Honorable Dube, please. Can we start? Order, please. Honorable Twala, can we start? Oh, okay. Please remain seated, honorable members. Can we then start with our meeting? Kaula and your team, Ngala. Yes. Just, it won't take long. Can we take our seats? Honorable Kaula, can you take your seats, guys? Because we have to start. Please, you're sitting here. No, every comment. It's a briefing for every comment. No, sir. Oh, why is it? Yeah. Please order, honorable members. Okay. Can we then start? Let me welcome all of you members. Can we then welcome all members that are present? Or you? Please, honorable members, order, please. Order, please. Okay, that's fine. Honorable members, can we, without further ado, we can't just delay more than this. Can we then start our meeting? Let's welcome all of you on this briefing on the 2024-25 Provincial General Budget. Can we then start by, do we have any apologies? Can we then start, if there are no apologies? I'm sure all members have seen the agenda. We have. Please check on your emails as well. And it's also going to be on our screens. It's also projected on your screens as well. It's not a long program. It's just, we actually going to get this briefing. If then we have seen the agenda, can we then adopt the agenda, please? Honorable Makeba.
Chairperson, greetings to honorable members present. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Zulu has moved for the adoption. Honorable Tele.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to yourself and all members and colleagues who are present. I second the adoption. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Dosi. Can we then, without any further delays, can we ask for the briefing by our provincial treasurer to take us through? I'm not sure who's going to take us through SOT. Thank you. You can proceed.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, thank you very much for this opportunity. I did indicate earlier on that we do appreciate your unwavering support as the Portfolio Committee on Finance. So, honorable members, we have already tabled a budget of just above 150 billion rands. The Premier is just requesting me to have a few minutes with them as the Provincial Executive Council. May I therefore request you to allow the HOD to take the committee through, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you. I will come back very soon.
Thank you, Honorable MEC, and HOD, please, you can take us through. Thank you.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members, our MEC, and to my team. Fortunately, the MEC has touched on a lot of what's in the presentation, so I'm really going to highlight the key issues for the interest of this committee and other committees. I'm going to go straight to slide 4, which highlights the MTF fiscal framework. So as the Honourable MEC just tabled, our budget for the next financial year is 150.7 billion rand. This is made up of provincial equitable share of 121.1 million rand, conditional grants of 25.3 million rand, provincial owned revenue of 4 billion rand, and then provincial cash resources of 6 million rand. We then expect to have spending by departments of 150.4 billion rand, my apologies, and then the contingency reserve is then at 236 million rand. I won't read the numbers for 25-26, the other members can note those. So we will then, in terms of the following slides, just highlight the amendments in terms of what has changed. On slide 6, the provincial equitable share amounts to, as I indicated, 121.1 billion rand. It's obviously much lower than the indicative amount of what we had expected last year. And this is mainly because of the fiscal consolidation budget cuts by National Treasury against this equitable share. This is to ensure that we reduce the country's current debt levels, which is the highest expense item that we have in the budget. There also are the provincial equitable share formula updates. As we know, those are done every year, and this has resulted in a further decrease in our equitable share over the 3 years. So we therefore have an increase in the MTF of 4.5% and not 4.6% as we initially anticipated. They have also allocated and shifted funds from the equitable share to conditional grants, and this is to accommodate the wage agreement settlement where staff are paid out of the conditional grants. There are also significant budget cuts that have had to take place for the departments, as you will see in the later slides. As a result, they all were required to review their annual performance plans to ensure that the plans are supported by the amended budgets. There are, as the Honourable MEC indicated, good news in terms of additions, in terms of the carry-through costs of the 2023 wage agreement, specifically for the social sector. So the net amount in terms of our equitable share, in terms of the increase, is 2.2 billion rand, 2.5 billion and 2.4 billion over the MTF. On the next slide, we then just give an indication of these in terms of a tabular format. You will see there that our initial allocation letter came through. We then had the reductions in terms of the formula. The formula reductions resulted in 334 million rand budget cut. Then in terms of the fiscal consolidation, we received a cut of 3.9 billion rand, but we had an increase for the wage carry-through for health of 4.3 billion, as well as 2.4 billion, and then a reduction of the movement, as we said, of COE from equitable share to conditional grants of 251, giving us a total amount of 121 billion rand. In the blocks below, basically, we indicate we got cuts, but we also received additional funding, and the blue box is then the net increase in the equitable share. If we then look at the conditional grants, here the amounts allocated is 25.3 billion rand to 25 billion rand, and then 25.4 billion over the MTF. Again, these cuts that have been made are due to the fiscal consolidations, really to reduce the country's debt burden and to ensure fiscal sustainability. And then in terms of the revisions, as I indicated, it's the movement of money to ensure that we can also fund the wage agreement in the social sector departments, as well as to ensure that there is continued participation and funding for the presidential employment stimulus. So as a result, our conditional grant budget increases in the next financial year of 501 million, but then we see a substantial decrease of 989 in the second year and 593 in the outer year. So the process and through the Ministerial Committee on Budget, as well as the Provincial Executive Council, resolved that we have to increase the contingency reserve. As members would recall, it was too low. In this regard, we had to reduce the budgets by departments by 132 over the MTF, which now leaves us with a contingency reserve of 236 million, 227 and 225 over the MTF. As members would know, the contingency reserve is really there to deal with unforeseen expenditure pressures during the year, which would then be appropriated during the adjustment estimates. In terms of our provincial owned revenue, this amounts to 4.1 billion rand, growing over the MTF. In the main, the adjustment and the increase to that is due to the agency fees relating to the collection of motor licenses. Honourable members will recall that there are agents that collect the motor licensing fees on behalf of the department, and they earn an agency fee for that. So we have now got sufficient historical data to be able to estimate what those costs are going to be. So we've increased the revenue to cater for those agency fees and increased the expenditure, having a zero effect on the budget, but it needs to be reflected accordingly. So we have an increase then of the provincial open revenue of 138 million, growing over the MTF. In terms of the provincial cash resources, this is typically where we have held funds in the Provincial Revenue Fund for a particular purpose or from in-year revenue collections. In this regard, there are two amounts that have been allocated. The first is to Vote 6, where there were overstated bank charges and there were challenges with the travel card. We were then reimbursed by the provincial banker, and that amount has now been reallocated to Provincial Treasury to strengthen the biometric access control system that has now needs upgrading. The second one is funds that have been held for a number of years with regards to the Indian Indentured Labourers Monument. This project has already commenced and is due to be concluded in the next 7 to 8 months. And so the amount that had been held in the Revenue Fund of 4.1 million is now being allocated to Vote 10. Then there have been movements of funds from Vote 12, Transport, has requested to suspend 3 million rand to the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. This is to fund an airport emergency fire and rescue vehicle for Margate Airport. We would know that there's been quite an increase in terms of the airport traffic, and we need to ensure that the facility is fully operational. If we then move on to the budget cuts in terms of the provincial equitable share, how did we implement the cuts? We did this proportionately across all votes, with the exception of Vote 2, the provincial legislature. We're hoping members are happy with that decision. We also excluded from Public Works property rates budget line item because we know that this is already underfunded, and to have reduced that further would have placed additional pressure on this particular matter. And we then see on the table, on the next table, the movement of these funds. So slide 13 shows the cuts across the different departments. In the main, the largest cuts was education, 2 billion rand, health, 1.4 billion rand, transport, 311 million. Those are the three highest cuts. You can see there that Vote 2, provincial legislature, no cuts. So in total, the cuts that we had to implement in the province is 4.3 billion rand for the next financial year. If we then move on to slide 15, we can then see the specific funding that was provided for the wage agreement carry through to the social sector departments of 6.8 billion rand. And we indicate there how we have split that across the three departments. So education receives 4 billion, health 2.6, social development 134. We are therefore satisfied that they are now fully funded in terms of the wage agreement for the 2023. Then if we move on to the conditional grants, the conditional grant budget has increased in the next financial year, but with significant declines in the outer 2 years. I'm only going to highlight the significant changes. The Ilama Letsama project under Agriculture and Rural Development has been cut by 24.7 million rand, allocating funds towards the Presidential Employment Grant. In total, the grant therefore receives 55.4 million rand for the next year. The province receives two EPWP conditional grants, and they total 141 million rand, made up of the EPWP integrated grant as well as the social sector EPWP incentive grant. As much as we are receiving 141, these grants have been cut by 42 and 29 million rand respectively across various votes. Education infrastructure grant has increased by 58.1 million rand. This is a net increase. As the Honourable MEC indicated, they did very well in terms of the incentive grant and received a 98% score. This then resulted in an additional allocation of 89, but with the budget cut, we then had a net increase of 58.1. In total, though, for the grant, they then received 2.4 billion rand in the next financial year. The National School Nutrition Program receives an increase of 19 million rand, which then increases the total budget for that to 2.2 billion rand. In terms of the health facility revitalisation grant, again, the department, as the Honourable MEC indicated, did exceptionally well in the incentive, scored 99%, and as a result received an additional allocation of 72.9. But with the cuts, it then received a net increase of 31.1. The total budget for this is then 1.5 billion rand in the next year. The provincial roads maintenance grant sees a significant increase of 691 million rand. This is for maintenance and rehabilitation of the roads, as well as repairs due to the floods. The budget in total, therefore, is 3.2 billion rand. The Human Settlements Development Grant is where we're seeing the biggest cuts by 268 million rand. Again, this is in order to fund the carry-through costs for the social sector. The total budget then for the next year for this Human Settlement Development Grant is then 2.5 billion rand. The informal settlement grant, also significant cuts of 228 million over the next financial year, and the total allocation then for this particular grant is 597 million rand. So if we move to slide 20, we can then see, as the Honourable MEC indicated, the budgets for each department over the MTEF, totaling the 150.4 billion rand that the Honourable MEC tabled. You can also then see the indication of the proportion of each department to the total budget, as well as the annual percentage growth over the MTEF. The next slide takes that information and puts it in a pie chart just to indicate where the funding is going. As you can see, the social sector takes up 79.9% of the provincial budget allocation. Then if we turn to infrastructure budget over the MTF is 17.1 billion, growing to 17.3 to 17.3 in the outer year. On the positive side here, 68% of that goes to economic infrastructure, because this is really critical for us to start stimulating the economic growth and for order to see increased tax revenues. Social sector receives 30.1% of the infrastructure. On slide 23, we then unpack that infrastructure payments. Majority of the infrastructure budget is going towards existing infrastructure in terms of maintenance, upgrades and refurbishments. And we can see that that amount totals an amount of 8.9 billion rand. New infrastructure has got a budget for 1.4 billion rand. And then we've got infrastructure transfers of 3 billion rand. This is where either it's through to the public entities such as the Richards Bay, IDZ, Dubai Trade Port, as well as other entities like municipalities. We then have a total there, as you can see, of 17.1 billion rand for infrastructure over the next financial year. And I think I will just end there. The next slide just is the narrative of the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, HOD. I think, honourable members, we have received the report. I think we will move to our item 5, which will be discussion. I saw Honourable de Klerk, and followed by Honourable Kaula, Honourable Madlala. You can proceed. Oh, Honourable Rogers.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I may just ask, I know we as the opposition will always be pointed out as being negative, but I'm very worried. The economic growth, according to what is in the budget, is 0.7%. Now, I cannot remember in the past 5 years where the growth has actually equaled the projection or be better. So it's always wrong, always wrong. So there's not much value we can say to an increase of growth this year and next year, because it doesn't happen historically. Now, if we take this low growth, we take into consideration, as was said by the MEC, that worldwide the economy is bad. The chances of growth is minimal. If we then consider that together with the fact that the equitable share, there's cuts, the fiscal consolidation, there's cuts, the wage bill assistance is only for 3 departments, and then add the population growth, which is 1.9% per year, we're in dire straits. How are we going to grow? And how are we going to deal with the fact that our population growth is 1.9, but our actual economic growth is not even 1%? And these growth is projected on a hope that the electricity supply will be better. So that's a hope on a hope. We hope the economy will grow because we hope that the electricity will be more available. So am I wrong to say that there is real risks and there is no answer in this budget speech of economic growth? It is just a way of we're in trouble and where can we send the money to at least not have a total collapse of services. I hope you can change my mind, but I don't foresee any good news from this budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable de Klerk. Honourable Kaula, can proceed.
Thanks, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable MEC, Honourable members and the Treasury Department. I thought, Chairperson, we are going to add a prefix there to Kaula. You can see where I'm sitting, so I thought we were going to say something Kaula, not just Kaula. Honourable MEC, I'm on the fiscal consolidation, slide 13. HOD, you say that it's proportional. What I want to find out is, have you also considered other factors like the issues of spending pressures? Because if you just remain with one consideration, the issue of proportion, of course, the big spenders are going to be affected bigger, and the small spenders are going to be affected in a smaller way. Whereas the spending by the big spenders is going to be opening a very big gap in terms of what has been taken away from them. I'm saying, Honourable MEC, because already, I think halfway to 23, 24, or something like that, the Department of Education specifically was already projecting an overspending that was going close to R1 billion. Now, if the issues like spending pressures and other considerations are not taken into account when you effect these cuts, do you not think that we are going to be running into projections of overspending every time these cuts are taking place? It's not only education, also health is a big spend, and you can see what has been taken away from them and others, especially then, because I serve in education. You see, they were already failing to provide schools with alternate teachers in case somebody has gone on leave, like your 4-month leave for birth and so on. So do you not think that can also assist so that they don't get into a big gap every time these fiscal consolidations are considered? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Kaula. I think it's Honourable Madlala, and then followed by Honourable Rogers.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Sihlalo. Let me start off by appreciating the budget as tabled. It is a proper budget as I see it, regardless of the problems that we are faced up with as a country. For instance, what Honourable Kaula has said with regards to the social sector, those big spenders getting affected once again. I want to now talk to human settlements because he's spoken to two departments. I am also concerned with the decrease of the Human Settlements Development Grant. And I'm not sure what is it that a treasury can say to us just to give comfort, because most of us come from constituencies and there's already a need for human settlements infrastructure. There are serviced sites that have started in some parts of the province that have not really been completed because of the shortage of money. So I wanted just to raise that as an area of concern, while appreciating the fact that the MEC was upfront and frank in terms of fiscal prudence, which is the role of the provincial legislature. But I believe there is something that you can say to us in terms of how we should look into the balancing the reduced budget to service delivery. Honorable Kaula has mentioned that already last year we're looking at this year 23-24, we're looking at a projected over expenditure in the Department of Health and also in the Department of Education. And that over expenditure robs us of service delivery. So for me, it is just the way, the word of wisdom on how best a treasury think we can balance service delivery to the reduced budget. And I also want to thank you, Honorable MEC, for considering the vote 2, that there was no cut on vote 2. I know members have lamented the fact that we are oversighting very big budgets and we don't have money and also get cut. Thirdly, the other one that I wanted to mention was also on grants. I see that grants have a decrease, they've been cut. I'm particularly also raising the issue of EPWP, which is aimed at improving job creation in the province. I don't know whether I heard you very clearly, HOD, where you're saying there are transfers to municipalities. There is authorities, the infrastructure bill, 17 odd billions. And my biggest problem is that our municipalities are not functioning very well. I don't know to what extent do you go to see the money allocated to municipalities, whether they've been put into good use. Are you happy with the monies that you have transferred to municipalities so far? And what is it that you are going to do differently this year to ensure that those monies are put into good use? Because we have seen our municipalities, I will not mention names, but we know that the state of affairs leaves a lot to be desired. So it's not the grant, it is the 17.1 billion that is allocated for infrastructure. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Dala. I believe Honorable Rogers has just gone out. I think he had an interview. He told me that he will have an interview with radios or whatever that's going on, but we'll go past him. If is there any other member that we might have missed before I give, Mhlonishwa Zondi. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairperson. We note that the social sector receives the lion's share from this budget, which on the one hand is commendable, but on the other hand, it happens as at the expense of other competing urgent priorities. Harping on what my colleague, Honorable de Klerk, indicated earlier on, the biggest question is, how can we utilize this budget as an instrument of growth, as an instrument of development, as an instrument of really changing the economic profile of the province of KwaZulu-Natal in relation to the rest of the country. I also note and appreciate that the budget cuts are done in the interest of fiscal consolidation and in order to address the country's debt burden in order to achieve financial or fiscal sustainability. That being said, which is a plausible thing to do, when I look at what we have in the reserves, is that realistic enough in view of the fact that we are facing other environmental pressures such as the unpredictable weather patterns? Are we going to be able to cope with disasters that are now the order of the day at this point in time? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Any other member I might have missed? No. Can I then hand it back to MEC so you'll decide who's going to talk? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and let me also thank all the members who have raised concerns and posed questions about the budget that we have just presented. Indeed, let me start off by responding to Honorable de Klerk by indicating that the global and domestic economic outlook does not look good. It's not only us in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and even in the entire country who are suffering from austerity measures. We did indicate that there is this, the fiscus is really affected by many issues. In our case, you will recall that we're facing that COVID-19 pandemic. We also suffered from the July unrest in 2021. The floods, are also taking a lot from the fiscal resources that the country is collecting. Hence, the National Treasury is always proposing for these budget consolidation exercises whenever we meet with them as the Budget Council. Of course, as MECs for various provinces, what we normally do is to plead with the National Treasury to make certain considerations when they cut budgets for the provinces. There was a big outcry during the processing of the wage bill when National Treasury did indicate to us as provinces that they are not going to be able to absorb the wage bill funding. It became very difficult for us. Ultimately, they ended up indicating that there's an amount of 78% that will be allocated for 2 social sector departments only. That is Department of Health and Department of Education. We are pleased to learn that currently they have decided to absorb fully the amount that is required for the 2 departments, including the Department of Social Development this time around. The issue of electricity or load shedding is a cause for concern for the entire country. The minister is trying his best to ensure that electricity is available or accessible for the purposes of the industries to grow and to grow this economy. Because if we are failing to support the industries, it means that when it comes to taxes, the country is always affected. Hence, there are many strategies and interventions that are being implemented right now. One of those was to ensure that the three ministers that have to do with provision of energy are actually working together in order to resolve whatever challenges that they might be facing. The issue of the population growth, colleagues will remember that when the Statistician General presented the outcome of their research on how are we faring as a population. Are we growing our population or not? They did indicate that KwaZulu-Natal's figures are reduced in favor of Gauteng province. So if our figures are reduced, it means that even when it comes to budget allocation, we are suffering as a province. So those are the determinants when budgets are allocated, some of the determinants when budgets are allocated. As I did indicate in my budget speech, we are the country right now, through national government departments and our own provincial departments, is trying to improve on the issues of freight and logistics, improve on the performance of the two ports, and also introducing new industries that might then impact positively on growing the economy of our country, so that the industries may also pay taxes in order to grow our GDP. For what Honorable Kaula was posing regarding the Department of Education, yes, Honorable Kaula, we are even aware of the fact that there are government departments who were even failing to pay for the services and goods that were procured towards the end of this financial year because of the fiscal consolidation that we had to impose on them, including the social sector departments like your education, health, social development. They really suffered. And when those departments suffered, it simply means that our people, especially the service providers, were also suffering, And they even reminded us that, Treasury, you always indicate that you have a policy of monitoring a 30-day payment period as Treasury. Now, we are not paid within a period of 30 days. What's happening? And then we had to be honest to our people in saying, we are suffering. We have been affected by the budget cuts, so they had to wait. So it was not an easy decision to make. As the National Treasury had to really implement these austerity measures, and they also affected us as the province. So we are monitoring what is obtaining in the Department of Education, closely monitoring that department, not only that department, but other departments. We are monitoring other departments as well. We have introduced a system whereby the MEC for Treasury and the senior management of Treasury will engage with the MEC for a particular department as and when it becomes necessary, so that we may clarify issues and also indicate what we are observing to them as Treasury. No, in terms of your in-year monitoring tool, you are showing over or under expenditure. And most of the time, the MECs would really appreciate our intervention to that fact. So education, we do appreciate that with regards to school nutrition program, they are benefiting some increment from some increment that is allocated to them. And we look at other issues as well. Regarding the Human Settlements Development Grant, yes, there are decreases there. Your concern, Honorable Madlala, is also our concern because we are residing in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and we know for a fact that people are still waiting for the provision of houses in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We are hopeful that perhaps at some stage there will be another consideration. We will be monitoring what we had presented earlier on, that according to the priorities that have been mentioned by the President, the presidential stimulus package has been prioritized. In other words, there is an expectation of creating a number of jobs even here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. If you look at the conditional grants, there are budget cuts from the provincial grants in favor of the presidential stimulus package. So we will be monitoring what we'll be obtaining in those departments. So perhaps let me allow the team to also respond to some of the questions. Thank you.
I think the Honourable MEC has really touched a lot on the issues that were raised, but perhaps just to reiterate some of the points, particularly around where the economists are making their predictions. Obviously, they base it on a number of assumptions, and as the Honourable MEC has said, the last 5 years, the world has faced tremendous unknown entities that could not possibly be planned for. And the MEC spoke about locally, but obviously we've had two massive wars that are taking place. And those are and even strikes and issues that we've had with the trucks on the roads. All of that influences, and it's beyond the control of economists when they're doing those predictions. But they are usually quite conservative in terms of what they are projecting. In terms of the issue around what are we contributing around growing the economy, obviously government plays a critical role to ensure that we create an environment that's conducive for the private sector. And that really talks to policy stability. And the MEC has spoken to the issues around logistics, energy, infrastructure, and effective municipal support, and particularly decision-making around planning. So those, if you look at where the funding has been allocated to both at a national level and a provincial level, that's really where the thrust is to try and stimulate that kind of growth. I think also then in terms of the Lekgotla that was held recently, in terms of the resolutions that have been passed, particularly pertaining to the budget, we've identified a number of inefficiencies in the systems, and there were very clear resolutions passed in that regard. Linking to that, the three departments that have got the major spending pressures, education, health and social development, where we've been mandated with the Office of the Premier to sit with the HODs, really unpack those budgets, implement the zero-based budgeting, and ensure that the funding is being directed to the essential areas. There was an exercise done by National Treasury around benchmarking KZN and all the other provinces, and it is very clear, particularly in the social sector, that we are well below these norms and standards. I think all the members would be aware of that. And we got the very clear impression from National that they now really do realize the disparities in KZN, and we will be pushing at the 10 by 10s in the different sector department engagements to push for further funding. As you would have seen in the past few years, we've been quite successful in that regard. I think then just in terms of the transfers to municipalities, yes, there are certainly major challenges with the implementation in some of the numbers that we see. Bearing in mind that this is a function of cooperative governance, traditional affairs, they really do monitor the conditional grants. But from a budgeting perspective, we do report on that spending, and the numbers are quite low. In most instances, it's due to supply chain management challenges in municipalities, There we do play a role, and there we are supporting municipalities to improve their systems. We also use our infrastructure crack team to also go to some of those municipalities to unbundle some of those blockages. Even the MEC recently was in her district, and we were engaging with KwaZulu municipality around their flood relief, and there's been really positive movements after that engagement. Then in terms of just looking at the funding that we've allocated to support economic growth, 11.6 billion rand is going to the economic sector. If you look then specifically at our SEZs, where we really are seeing tangible foreign direct investment and job creation, in the next year they're receiving over 700 million, which is about 2.1 billion over the MTF. So we really see positive impact there. In terms of our reserve, certainly what we have put in the contingency reserve would never assist us with our major disasters that we do face as a province. Just in the last few months, those damages have come to about 2.2 billion rand. However, there is a significant contingency reserve at a national level, and obviously the Provincial Disaster Management Centre will put an application through to access that funding. But what National is also doing is looking at how do we as a country start funding disasters, because obviously it consumes quite a large amount of the budget. They're considering different forms of insurance that other countries have implemented, because we know that this is now a reality facing us. They're also looking at being proactive in terms of redesigning the norms and standards in the building industry. So currently what we're building, for example, in roads is not sufficient in terms of the level of the quantum of water that we're now experiencing. So there are movements to be proactive to ensure that what we are building going forward will be more resilient, so that we don't see the extent of the devastation. Honourable MEC, if you'll allow me, I'll then ask my team if there's anything they'd want to add.
Thank you, and good morning to all honourable members. I think I've been largely covered, but I just wanted to highlight something in the infrastructure table on slide 23. So that amount that we see against infrastructure transfers capital is around 3 billion. The bulk of that is not funding that goes to municipalities. The bulk of that relates to the Human Settlements Development Grant. So I think a very small part of it is sports, arts and culture for the libraries and the sporting facilities, around 40 million. Duba Trade Port is also part of that, around 66 million in 24-25, but absolutely the bulk of it is the Human Settlements Development Grant. So I just wanted to give clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Honourable Rogers still wants to, because most members have spoken, and then we gave it back to our MEC and officials to give the clarities on the questions that had been asked by members. I'm not sure, can I still give you an opportunity, or you are okay?
Chair, thank you for your indulgence. It's really just a simple question of clarity, and I want to refer to table 20 in the presentation by Treasury, and I want to do a comparative with page 31 in the Green Book. So if one looks at the main appropriation 23-24, it's 146 million, which ties up with the main appropriation on page 31. The revised estimates sit at 154 billion. Sorry, I should be saying billion, not million. 154 billion. And I'm assuming that increase was additional funding that the province received, additional financial allocations. Now, if I look at the 24-25 figure, it's sitting at 150 billion, which is 4 billion less than the revised estimate for this last year. Now, my concern is that means if we don't get additional funding during this financial year, there could be 4 billion shortfall, because surely we're going to spend more than we did last year. I hope my question makes sense. Thanks, that's all. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Rogers. Can I give it to you, and then I'm not sure if HOD or MEC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yes, in terms of the revised estimates, my team are also going to step in and help me if I get this wrong, but the revised estimates absolutely is correct. It was the 4 billion rand that we received for the social sector wage bill, which came very late in the year, which also was predominantly a lot of the challenges that the education and health faced in terms of paying service providers. We've only just received some of the last bit of that funding now. But it was introduced from the 1st of April. So that was a challenge. So there was the conditional, but there was the equitable share increase, but then there was also some cuts in the conditional grants. So that's the net position from last year. And then the 150 billion rand for this year is because we've had a provincial equitable share cut of close to 4 billion rand. So that's why you will see that decline. I hope that assists.
Thank you. Thank you, HOD. I must say, Honorable MEC, our officials, I think with such challenges, I must also agree that these are the trying times for our province and the country at large. You know, the fiscal challenges is not just in our province, but the whole world challenge. With the budget presented to us, once again, I just want to say, you know, under difficult times, with a lot of budget cuts, surprisingly, any increments, but we saw the increase in an NSNP program. You know, that one speaks volume because there are more kids that are going to be able to benefit out of this program. So coming up with that increment, I was just highlighting one of them. I think I never thought that we'll get any increase, but out of your good work, I think you came up with something like this. The staff, a very capable HOD, Carol, thank you for ever presence in our committee. When members need some clarities, you're always present with the staff and the MEC. I think to our finance committee members, I want to say thank you for your commitment and robustness in engaging in all issues with regards to our finance of our province, the finances of our province. The attendance in all our oversights, the bill hearings, which went very well. It was always a full house. Our society seems to have heed our call to submit and attending our hearings in the province. Once again, honorable members, I want to thank you. We have come to the end of our meeting. All other committees that were present, I know that they submitted some issues to us. So, to our finance committee, thank you again. I think our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh gosh, I attended.